I'm recording.
Great. Thank you so much. So hi, I'm Milana Kuchanach, and I'm chatting with CIMCO Refrigeration today about using natural refrigerants in ice arenas. I'm joined by David Fauser, Director of Sales at CIMCO, and Brad Wilkins, U.S. Recreation Project Lead. Welcome, guys.
Hi, Elena.
Hey, thanks for having us.
I think it's sort of like a short bit of background. Tell us a bit about CIMCO Refrigeration, what the company does. Like, how long have you been around, and what are your key areas of focus?
Sure, yeah, I'll take that one, Elena. So CIMCO has been around for 110 years now, and we started all the way back in 1913. And we were started by a real entrepreneur, Thomas Shipley, and he was, he got his refrigeration knowledge from the York Refrigeration Company, and he had 22 patents and was a real founder of refrigeration. He started the ASHRAE, the first ASHRAE chapter, and he was quite prominent. And the story has it, I just found this out because we had some relatives of him stop by our new head office recently. And so Thomas Shipley wanted to move to Canada because he had a cottage that was 2 hours north of Toronto. So he wanted to be closer to his cottage. So he came up to Toronto and he left the York Refrigeration Company and started this company called CIMCO, which stands for the Canadian Ice Machine Company. And back in 1913, like, refrigeration wasn't really part of our day-to-day lives. And we were doing all sorts of crazy things back then, like digging holes in the ground and trying to store our food. And, if we had any hockey or any ice sports, it would be on natural rinks. But there were some new inventions, primarily around ammonia refrigeration. And really the biggest competition at the time was actually the ice from Lake Ontario. And so he started the company then, and we've been into ammonia refrigeration right from day one. And it's really part of the core of our organization from the beginning. And since then, we are now located in every single major Canadian city, and we've got a presence in the U.S. as well. We're owned by a larger parent company called Toromont, and we are heavily focused, I would say, heavily focused in the ice rink industry, as well as food and beverage, cold storage, and some specialty applications like petrochemical and that sort. But I will tell you, Elena, for sure that the core is based on natural refrigerants. And that's what I'm so excited to talk to you about this here today.
Amazing. I mean, you mentioned that you were working with ammonia kind of right from the start. How long ago has that been? And when was CO2 added to this portfolio? You can maybe take us through the journey with natural refrigerants as well.
Sure, of course, Lana. Yeah, so we would have been using ammonia for 110 years, and really it wasn't until, I want to say, maybe 15 years ago that we started to seriously look at CO2. I remember it was a big deal because we had a convoy of a couple of our lead engineering staff go over to Europe to see what was happening, because we had heard rumors that CO2 was becoming a refrigerant of choice, and we went to Sweden and some other countries. I wasn't on that trip, unfortunately, but we did start to say, holy cow, okay, this is interesting stuff, because we were always worried about high pressures and all the things that you hear about with CO2. But as soon as the manufacturers started to make components that fit with CO2, we became interested. We installed our first CO2 system, CIMCO built system, in Concordia University, which is in Montreal, which would have been about maybe, I think, 12 years ago now. And we've since done over 100, and I want to say maybe 125 to 150 CO2 systems for both the industrial and the recreation market since then.
That's quite significant, and it's correct to say most of those systems are in North America, right?
They are in North America, yeah. All the systems are in North America. I mean, all of our CO2 systems are. We've done quite a few ammonia systems internationally, but our CO2 systems are in North America primarily.
One of the things that sets CIMCO apart is that you pretty much have said natural refrigerants only, really, going forward. Why this change? Yeah, why is natural refrigerant so important for CIMCO?
Well, at the core value that I talked about earlier, our core value has always been with natural refrigerants, but our core value is long-lasting solutions for our customers. And so a couple of years ago, when we were looking at ourselves in the mirror and saying, okay, what are we going to do here moving forward, and how do we best help our customers? And one of the things that is actually quite painful for a customer is when they have to take out a refrigeration system, but not on their terms. when they have to take it out because of a regulation change. And when you talk about that to an organization, these are not cheap systems. They're expensive and they're mission critical, because without refrigeration, you're not operating. And I think that far too often, with some of the marketing that's used by some of the synthetic refrigerant manufacturers, it can be pretty misleading, like they're sustainable, long-lasting solutions, but all too often they're removed before the useful life of equipment. And a lot of times too, they say, well, you could do a drop-in, but doing a drop-in, I think, is a lot like changing your car from gasoline to diesel. Like, it's not easily done. And there's always some changes between the output of the refrigeration system and how it's going to operate efficiently and effectively. So for those reasons, I think, like, looking at our customers in the eye and our values of a long-lasting solution, it just didn't fit with us as an organization to be able to say this is the best solution for you, and really mean that from a long-term perspective. So I know that we've lost sales because of it. I know that we haven't been able to offer solutions because of it, but I think overall, it's been a better decision, because we know when we install one of our natural refrigerant solutions that it is a long-lasting, good solution for that client.
Helps you sleep better at night, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, we talk a bit about it, but there's a lot of bad press about ammonia often. But what are the key challenges you face with ammonia installations, and how do you address these? I mean, what are some of the common misconceptions within the market?
Well, Alana, what I find a lot is a lot of the R22 systems that we're seeing getting phased out are in larger buildings or inside rooms that were thought last of when they built the building. So they're in the worst possible places to get to. So that is a big challenge for us, is just understanding the location and figuring out how do we convert that room so it's safe for ammonia, if ammonia is on the table, or CO2. I think the biggest thing from our standpoint is the room sizes are much smaller than what the new ones are today, and the locations are very challenging to get to. Other things that we're seeing too is just the information about the safety around ammonia and the misconception in the industry. But one thing that we do know at CIMCO is, even in Canada, 80% of the rinks are ammonia. It's been around for a long time. It's very efficient. It works great in all applications. And you just have to respect it. All refrigerants need to be respected. And there's life safety systems put in place that meet all the code regulations, so that all your staff and everybody that enters your building is in a safe building. How do we address it? With new technology, lower charge systems. We're now getting our systems down to less than a pound of ammonia per ton of refrigerants, or of refrigeration, which is huge. Other things like the smart transfer system, which is a new design system that we've put into place that's going to add even another safety element to the room, where it will automatically detect a leak and transfer the entire charge into a safe vessel without the involvement of any humans within the building. So there has been a lot of changes, but for the biggest thing, it's just engine room location for sure.
And the CO2, what are the challenges with CO2 systems and the misconceptions in the market? I know everyone always has a lot to say about the different climates of CO2, but I feel like the technology has come so far today.
Yeah, the technologies have come a long way. Pressure and performing in warmer climates is generally the two biggest concerns that we do see, as well as serviceability. But there is some big grocery store chains in the U.S. like Aldi that are switching all of their existing and new grocery stores to CO2. So when I talk to customers about serviceability, there's going to be a lot of serviceability around their areas, especially from the grocery stores that are switching over and converting as well. To deal with the pressures, like Dave said earlier, a lot of these systems are tested to, I don't know, is it double the pressure? Probably, Dave, would you say? And that the welding and everything is inspected to those higher pressures. So we're very comfortable with the designs of these systems, and we're seeing them perform greatly in all applications.
That's amazing. I mean, you have so many case studies to choose from. So this one might be a bit difficult. But if we have to look at a CO2 case study for an ice arena, we're comparing the pros and cons of using a CO2 versus using some fluorinated gas in the same application. Could you give me a bit of background of one of these projects and what was the benefit of going natural over using an F-gas?
So one case study that comes to mind is Santander Arena in Reading, Pennsylvania. We just installed a CO2 plant that started up last September. The challenge for us with that application was we hadn't installed. We have more than 100 CO2 ice rinks installed, but we've never installed one, I think, with more than 2,000 seats inside. So it was a bit of a hurdle to get over to get their comfort level up that the CO2 system would perform with the 8,000 seat facility. We were very conservative with our energy savings for that building when we were going through the sales process, and now we're seeing that it's proven. It's saving 30 to 40% in energy compared to the R22 system last year, as well as it's saving about 30% of the water consumption. So the facility has told us that their rentals and it's just a busier rink right now than it was last year, Alana, and they're seeing tremendous savings with it. So
Hey, also,
Yeah.
Brad, ice quality.
Yes.
Maybe you should speak a little bit to that as well too, because I think that was most impressive to me when we were there together a few months ago.
yeah, the ice quality, talking to the players that play on the ice itself, as well as a new event that they've done there that I'd never seen done anywhere else, and I'm sure it happens all over the place, but they race motorcycles and they have to build the ice up to 3 inches of ice in order to race motorcycles around the sheet of ice, and they bring fans in and whatnot. But this was the first year that they were able to hold the ice through the 3 inches of ice and no problem. But even talking to the players at practice when we were down there a month ago or so, that they commented, a lot of them commented on how much harder and consistent the ice was throughout the year. They never had any issues compared to the year before of water freezing on there, just very soft ice and just challenging conditions to play on.
And that's particular to CO2 ice rink systems.
Yes,
I mean,
yeah,
performance makes a big difference and quality.
it does.
And then if we look at a case study on the cold storage side or a factory application where you also use a natural refrigerant over a fluorinated gas, can you give us one of those studies?
Yeah, I think the one that comes to mind for me is we did a pharmaceutical plant a few years ago with ammonia for all of their HVAC systems throughout the building, and it's been installed. It's working fantastic. They didn't have a Freon system before. It was a brand new building that they put an ammonia system in. We're also putting a rather large HVAC system into a manufacturing plant right now. As well, they've chosen to go with natural refrigerants because of the issues that they felt they had with synthetic refrigerants. So I think that, like, that's for the AC side or comfort cooling. From a cold storage side, I mean, like, I think that within North America, we've really seen mostly natural refrigerants for the most part for food processing and cold storage facilities, because if you think about it, like a refrigeration systems like the veins in a body, and if they were to choose to go with like a synthetic solution and then they were forced to change, then to remove all that piping and all that material would be extremely disruptive to their business. So I think that most business people, when they take a look at the business case and say we're going to build or we're going to maintain this food storage plant or this food production plant, natural refrigerants are just such a clear winner at those kind of tonnages and sizes and temperatures. What will be interesting though, Alana, is as we start to see the smaller warehouses and the smaller food production companies, and I think that's where we are seeing a rise in CO2 for those applications. And so anyways, yeah, I can't think of a mine where we've have a business case to show the savings one over another, but certainly that Santander is pretty big business case to show the benefits of CO2.
I think an industrial ammonia has more than proven itself over the years, but it's been interesting to see more and more CO2 applications as well for the larger projects. I think you've done a couple of cold storages and things there too, which has been.
Well, we've done lots. Yeah, it's like in the mix. Like I can tell you, like 40% right now for total pipeline is our CO2 opportunities. So,
Wow.
and that's gone up. Last year's 30%, the year 20%, 10%, and so like we're seeing like double-digit growth in our pipeline. So I would say that almost all the opportunities that are either a major retrofit or a new build, CO2 is in the mix in that discussion. We're talking about ammonia and CO2, and I would say that it's certainly there from an adoption perspective for sure in Canada. US, it still has a way to go for the food and beverage and cold storage side, but certainly in Canada, it's prominent. In the ice rink side, Brad can speak better to that than me, but I know that he's having regular conversations in regards to that. It's a topic.
Yeah, we absolutely are, Dave. Yeah, the past 3 years, I've been on the US side of our business for 3 years now. I was in Ontario before that, so I have a good understanding of both landscapes. And even in Canada, like I said before, it was around 80% were ammonia systems. We saw a lot of the R22 systems in Quebec convert to CO2, and we're seeing that happen in the US as well. It's a little bit slower of an adoption, but I can tell you since the start of my new job in the US 3 years ago till now, the opportunities and the discussions we have in our pipeline, I would say are 50% CO2 right now compared to what it was 2 years ago. So it is moving quickly. And I think the biggest reason just for it is a lot of these rinks that I get into discussions with that have R22 systems do not want to be in the same position they're in. They do not want to be forced to change their system out if it's not ready to be changed out due to a refrigerant. And some of the bigger facilities that we're in talks with right now that have 3,000, 4,000 pounds of R22 have experienced some leakage over the last couple of years, and it's not cheap to buy new refrigerant to keep their system running. So it's a main concern for them, and they're looking at the sustainability of it. They don't want to be in this position again, and I think natural refrigerants is really taking off because of that. They just don't want to be in the position again to have to be forced to do something.
Yeah, what's really crazy, Brad, is when I take a look at the pro teams, and there's a lot of installs that were done in the 90s and early 2000s. We are talking with every team that went with synthetic. We are talking to no teams that had chosen ammonia back then because the ammonia systems are running fine. They're industrial. They don't have no need to replace the system. But every single pro team with a synthetic system we're talking to in some regard about their options and some of them have pulled the trigger already, like Columbus Blue Jackets, who's putting in the first CO2 system and then as well to the Washington Capitals. Both have decided, and we're pretty close on some other ones as well too.
Yeah, I mean, you've got CO2 into the NHL now, it's in the Beijing Olympics. I mean, CIMCO is involved in that as well. You really have got these systems everywhere. I mean, what do you think the future for natural refrigerants looks like in North America? Where do you see it in kind of 5 years? Where do you think it will continue to grow this fast or maybe even faster?
Yeah, where I see natural refrigerants is beyond just refrigeration. I mean, as a matter of fact, like I almost feel that refrigeration in cold is almost will be a dead topic. As crazy as that sounds, because really when we think about cold, it's all relative. It's just heat and lack of heat. And I really see a shift towards thermal as if we really want to battle climate change, if we really want to maximize energy efficiency, deciding on what refrigerant that we put in, it just for the cold side, it's not going to be where we're going to find those savings. So things like looking at the heating, cooling, and refrigeration all within one unit and looking at that thermally and then coming up with better ways to manage that thermal energy throughout the building and where it's required. I mean, it's crazy when you think about it that your domestic boiler or your gas boiler at one of these manufacturing plants, they get excited about 95% efficiency. Well, we're talking about 300% efficiency. I know that doesn't make sense, but we're talking about like some really big savings and maximizing the movement of that thermal energy. So when we talk about what the future for natural refrigerants is, I really just see natural refrigerants being the total thermal solution for ice rinks and for larger buildings. And I think that's the exciting part for us, because it does feel pretty good that we are, when we're representing natural refrigerants in the systems that are built, that we have a tremendous opportunity to help with our market to get to net zero and to eliminate the natural gas, eliminate the refrigerant emissions, and then connect to the bigger picture of the community with some district heating and cooling. You know, for years and years and years in Canada, the ice rink was the center of the community. Now it can not only be a social hub of a center of a community where we go and watch the sports we love, it could also be the heating and cooling for the community as well too, because they create just so much thermal energy. And we've had a couple of projects that have done that already. And of course, we've got our new product called the Thermal Force One, which really is the only system that you're going to need for an entire ice rink that does all of those things. So Elena, to answer your question, I think natural refrigerants are here to stay. I think the market's going to grow. I think there's going to be more pressure on the synthetics and some more scrutiny. And I think that there's going to be a expansion of the usefulness of naturals within a thermal capacity of a building.
That sounds like an amazing future. Definitely want to be part of that one.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, thanks so much, Dave and Brad. I mean, you guys are always so passionate about this topic. I think every time I've spoken to you, Dave, you always talking about the future, what legacy you want to leave for your children as well, and how natural refrigerants ties into that. So, yeah, keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's you know, it is something. It's great that, you know, feel very fortunate that we don't have to sit here and make up ways that we're sustainable. We're just sustainable, and how do we help educate, and being here with you is definitely part of that. And I thank you very much for spending your time with us today.
Yeah, thanks.
Great. Thank you so much. I think you can stop the recording.
Okay, there we go. You're done in 20 minutes.